What wisdom have you gained from your parents' divorce?
Mm-hmm. Well, my parents are happily married and in love, but I've seen like my cousins go through their parents' divorce. So at that time, my uncle, he cheated on my aunt and they got a divorce. And I saw how it reflected on my cousins, like a change in who they were. And it kind of sucked to see that because before they were like these happy kids, but obviously I didn't know there was like problems going on also. And later on you see like a change on their character. They're not happy. And like when they see the girl, they don't feel comfortable with her. They didn't like her. I remember that. And my cousin would do like una travesura, so like behind her back, which means like a little dumb thing that she'll do.
Think adventurous.
Yes, adventurous, spontaneous, like Caroline said.
Naughty. That sounds naughty to me.
So going back. So my cousin would do a few travesuras, and it was hilarious because it would be like dumb things. Like if the girl was talking behind her back, she'll like do a funny thing, or she'll give an attitude. So like the other person who's talking to the girl can see what my cousin is doing. And she will always do it with like her dad, and it was funny. But you saw how that action like she was doing, like it wasn't correct for her to do that. It was obviously a child and childish, but like as a father you should have like known how your child is feeling, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think he didn't see that. He like just blocked them out like that, and it was just always the focus on her, on the new girl, right? Mm-hmm. Which she had a previous child, and she obviously it did not work out with the other father, and she thought my uncle was the one. Unfortunately, he cheated on her again, cheated again, but on obviously the new girl, and she was left with the baby. Wow. And my uncle went with someone else, and he impregnated her, I think, twice. And I was like, damn, what happened? I mean, it was just like, I didn't like that for my cousin. Obviously, they were able to like overcome that. But as like a cousin seeing my uncle do that and like leave a child, it sucks. Like, what are you doing? And especially with the girl that didn't have that support of a husband in the first time, you know? Mm-hmm. Had a child, and you just like impregnated her and had another child. So it kind of sucked, but that pattern I didn't like. So the divorce, how it reflected on my cousins, and then it just turned out so messy with other stuff. But you guys can tell your other stories too.
I would say my parents' divorce, what wisdom I gained from it was to learn to not settle for less, because my father cheated on my mom, and he left her for another woman from Colombia.
A younger woman.
Right? Yeah, younger, I believe.
A lot younger, right?
Much younger? Like how many?
No, not that young. Mm-hmm. But the main reason why he did that was because he's very traditional Colombian man, which is very dominant, who doesn't like a woman who works, goes to school. He likes a woman who's at home.
Fetch my slippers.
Cleaning.
Bring
cooking,
me a beer.
Taking care of the kids.
What time is dinner?
School. That is
old school. Yeah. Like, and my mom is the type, she likes her money. She likes business. She likes wealth. She hates not doing anything. Like, she needs to be working regardless. Like, retirement is not for her because she just loves it. Mm-hmm. And he didn't like that she was that way. And that's why he started looking for a woman who literally does nothing with her life and depends on a man.
Sounds kind of submissive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I learned
I got my ass chewed about that word on TikTok. Got fucking dragged.
Yeah. And so I learned, to have my self-worth, to know how to be independent. My mom took on the father role as well, and she's done her absolute best to take care of me. Never had like strict parents, so I learned freedom and also respect to not push my limits, because my mom had to go through some stuff too. I had a wild side in high school, and then I learned that like she was trying so hard to like keep me on the right path, and luckily I never went through like the whole sleeping around, drugs, hoodlum stuff. Like, I was very calm, collective. I don't know what it's like to be in like a really loving, happy, daddy comes home to mommy and all that stuff. So that wisdom of affection I've never learned. So that's why I'm really like detached. I put on a really strong wall when it comes to relationships. So
I have
that's
a question
yeah.
for you. So it kind of ties back. Is this the reason also, like, you don't feel you want to have kids because that also, or it's just your own kids are different from it?
Maybe if I went to a therapist or something and they dig deep, maybe. But personally, I've tried my best, even with like my niece and nephew. I thought it was just like random kids at first because I don't really care for anyone's random kid. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll grow an attachment to my niece and nephew. But it's just like a awkward feeling. Like, I don't know what to do with them. I don't know how to talk to them. I feel like they don't understand me. I'm just like, no, go away. Yeah. But maybe, I don't know.
I think it just depends on the person, to be honest.
You need a strong man in your life, make you feel safe enough to explore that.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe if I fall in love with a really masculine man that knows what he wants, I'll want his child and all that stuff. But not right now.
Yeah. I think it depends on the person, though, because I grew up in a super family-oriented environment, and I'm very indifferent when it comes to kids. Like, I'm open to the idea, but it's definitely something that I'm okay with not having, even if it means spending the rest of my life without kids. I'm good with being the fun aunt right now, so. Or godmother, because I'm a godmother, too, so.
I want to be a godmother, like slay and stuff like that.
How do you think you turned out from your parents? Because you said they love each other a bunch.
No, they love each other a lot. But my parents are definitely different types of people. And when it comes to parenting styles, they're pretty different. Somehow they always find common ground. And I find that to be something that they're definitely compatible with. And if you work as a team, and when it comes to relationships, you should work as a team. There's love incorporated, but sometimes love itself isn't enough. So you also have to work as a team. And I think my parents have done a pretty good job, working together, despite some of their different viewpoints.
Same thing with my parents. Yeah, they have their different viewpoints, but growing up with them, it was nice. And it sucks because not everyone can have that experience, like you, Caroline, and you. So it's just like, I get both sides, but like for the future when it comes to kids, I loved growing up with like seeing my nieces too. Well, not my nieces, my little cousins growing up, but and I felt attachment to them. And for me, it kind of like got me a bit thinking of life. Like when I'm older, I would love to have kids, but I want to give them that support from family, have that father figure and have their mother. Because growing up, like when you have your parents, like it feels good, but like it helps you push a little more harder. Because you have to you have your dad pushing you, you have your mom yelling at you, sometimes your dad backs up and like has your back sometimes, and stuff like that. But that's how like my goal for life. And I think it scares me sometimes because I don't want to be a divorced parent, because I know for a fact that it's going to become an issue with my child. I know that from hearing from you, hearing from other people. So that's another thing like we have to like keep in mind.
Yeah, my parents, they got divorced. I was like 29, I think it was. But my mother was a psychotic schizophrenic, so she like flipped out when I was like 19 and a half, I guess, just before I turned 20 when I was in college. And she was never the same after that, and her, mental illness that she had just got worse as she got older, and I was living in Orlando at the time. And so she'd like kick my dad out because she just, we used to, in the old days, you could say, hey, my wife, my girlfriend, my dad, my son, whatever, is flipped out, and they would send the either the police over and Baker Act them and take them to the mental institution and forcibly medicate them. my mother was psychotic schizophrenic, so they think nothing's wrong with them. So they're always trying to take themselves off the medication. And when they take themselves off the medication, they get loopy and they end up back in the mental hospital. And as they get older, the medication doesn't have as good of an effect. Rebound. You probably know this from working at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Balancing them out. And, she kicked my dad out. And he was just like, fuck it, and we sent doctors over, and they're like, she's nuts. She should be in an institution. She should be on medication, but she's not threatening to commit suicide or harm anybody else. So we can't do anything. If she wants to go crazy, she can go crazy in her own house, So that's basically what happened. And so when I kind of knew that was going to happen eventually. And, so by that time I was already, like I said, I was almost 30 years old at that point.
You reach a breaking point.
I wasn't at like but it did affect my brother in a negative way because he was only like 15, 16 in high school when that happened. Because he was pretty tight with my mom. And, but, other than that, it's, I was so much older when that happened. It didn't really have an impact. But for me, what did have the impact was just I looked at my parents and was like, that's not the kind of relationship I want to have. That's not what I want to emulate, because they would bicker and fight. And I never saw them be affectionate. I never heard the words I love you or anything like that. Not only from my parents, but it was like the whole family was like that. My grandfather would come over, instead of hugging me, he'd reach out and shake my hand,
Yeah.
He was like old school. He was World War II. He was in the Navy. And my other grandfather was also in World War II. He got shot in the hip. He had like a debilitating injury and died when I was like, I think 6. But so you grow up in an environment like that, and then you don't get love and affection. And then at some point as you're a little kid, you start to think, is there something wrong with me? Maybe I'm the problem. And so that becomes part of your story that you play in your mind. And then plus on top of that, you take on your parents' limiting beliefs, their wounds, their shortcomings, and part of becoming an adult is like overcoming that stuff and getting past how you've adopted that kind of stuff, and it got big into self-help, and eventually became a life coach because of it. Initially, when I was younger, I wanted to figure out how to be successful, how to make money, how to become rich. I did that with my first group of companies, my business partners, by the time I was 30, and then all the stuff I learned, I decided to start teaching it. And then here we are all these years later doing podcasts.
Podcast crew.
The long and winding road. But, your wounds become your strengths. Like Caroline, what she's gone through, it's made her appreciate like what your parents have. So she knows what it's like to not see that or to not have that. And so it's, for somebody like you, it'd be easy for you to take it for granted as well, because that was normal to you. To her, she aspires to that. And so it's like anything that happens in life where that's fucked up or whatever, is that like the one night stand thing. It's like, I believe that we choose our parents, that we incarnate to have a certain set of things happen to us. It's like when you meet certain people and you feel like you've known them forever and you just click with them, and it's like there's something beyond the physical happening between you. You feel like you were destined to meet or whatever. And so it's I believe, for me, I believe I chose my parents because that experience growing up in that family and everything I've experienced since then led me to where I am, just like with you guys. All the shit that was fucked up in your lives, or the bad relationship, or the breakup, or your breakup, or getting cheated on 3 times by the same person.
Just kidding. You guys never got married, but
2 months too. Damn.
So it's like it gives you the ability to transcend that and say, I want to do better. I want better for my life. And if I'm going to have kids someday, I want them to be better, be happier, be more successful.
Definitely agree with that one. And I would want my kids to like look up to me.
Yeah.
And like look up to their father, We shall see what happens throughout time. It's what God wants, what the universe wants for each and one of us when it comes to our love life, our professional life. So we definitely leave it to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about Macy's story.
Well,
My story.
last but not least, we arrive at Miss Macy. Minus the glasses tonight.
Yeah.
Minus the librarian look.
We're blind tonight. Actually, I broke them last night, but minor details.
How many cocktails were involved in that?
Nothing. I was driving.
You broke your glasses while driving.
Yeah, because I went to go put my hair up and like ripped them and like the frame like snapped. So I gotta get a pen to go in there.
In the old days, they would do that tape, like that white tape.
No,
Oh, yeah.
God. No, I'm not wearing contacts.
The Revenge of the Nerds tape.
I have a phobia of touching my eye. I'll never put a contact in.
What? Really?
Yes. Yes.
Get LASIK. That's even better. Lasers burn your eyeballs.
That literally sounds
Reshape it.
traumatizing.
That
And you're awake
definitely
the whole
does.
time.
I
And it
would-
smells like burning hair.
I'd probably need therapy after that.
Do you cringe over people popping out their contact and putting it back in?
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I think eyes are disgusting.
Oh.
You're
like-
not a fan of the eyeballs.
No. No, I hate them.
You have
So-
nice eyeballs, though, and a nice eyes.
Yeah, they're really
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you. They're nice and blue.
Yeah.
So my story,
Once upon a time,
I came from a one-night stand. My mom was in high school when she had me. So I was raised by a teenager, basically. My grandparents were my legal guardians until I was 13. And then my mom would just come and pick and choose when she wanted to be in my life. My dad was a drug addict, was never in my life. He chose to never see me. His family was our next door neighbor at our apartments, and his sister tried kidnapping me when I was little. So they were just kind of crazy. They were all on drugs. And then I remember he called me one birthday and told me, "Happy birthday." I was like 12 maybe, and he said, "I chose drugs over you." And then, so that was like hurt really bad, like being 12 years old and someone's telling you, "Hey, I'm your dad, but by the way, like drugs are more important than you." So then he overdosed when I was 16. So I never got a chance to meet him, but I think it was a good thing that I never met him. Just because like he's a piece of shit in my opinion. He's a sperm donor. He's not a father. And
he had nothing to offer.
no.
He
And
even basically told you that when he called you.
yeah.
He's like, I had nothing to offer you as a dad.
Yeah. Like he never once like contacted my mom asking like how I was, never like child support, nothing. Like my mom raised me as an 18-year-old. She barely raised me. It was my grandparents for the longest time.
So him not wanting to be in your life, he was actually protecting you the best way he could.
Yeah. So it kind of how I was raised by like I was kind of raised by my mom, kind of raised by my grandparents. Like my grandparents did everything they could, but at the end of the day, like I was still introduced to a lot of things I shouldn't have been around when I was with my mom. So it kind of like shaped me into having really, really bad trust issues. Like if a guy came up to me and like tried like hug me or like shake my hand or anything, like I would like freak out. Like I was afraid of men for years because I had never really been around them.
You didn't know which ones to trust.
Yeah. And I mean, it's taken a lot of therapy to get to where I'm at, but like I still like, it was really hard to grow up and think someone didn't want you, because that's how my mom would tell me, "Oh, your dad didn't want you. Your dad didn't want you." And so it took a lot of therapy to get to where I am now to say, fuck him. It was his loss because I'm a bad bitch. He doesn't get the right to, never got the right to know me. Like, so that's kind of how my story.
And this happened at a tender age of 12. I feel like around that time, especially like the teens phase, like when you're just starting to become a teenager, that's like your fragile, I guess, few chapters in your life. Because when you're becoming a teenager and you're growing up, you're already starting to see a little glimpse of what the world is capable of showing you, whether it be good or bad. And especially since we don't know how to learn how to value ourselves and accept that this is our body, this is my face, this is it. Like, especially nowadays, like a good example, with the Instagram models and stuff, a lot of 12, 13-year-olds get insecure and they start seeing those things. I mean, obviously has nothing to do with social media, but I can kind of see the relation. Like, you were at a tender age of 12. Like, that's like where you're starting to like actually grow and realize what's around you. Mm-hmm. It really does. It's definitely something that shouldn't be underestimated. Because I have a family member that she's actually, I'm not going to say the age, but she's pretty young, and basically in terms of like a lot of stuff she's gone through, like she still has that, implanted in her mind, but she's still growing. So she definitely has the ability at that age at the same time to kind of revert that. Mm-hmm. Granted, it's going to take a while. Everyone does things at their own time, learns at their own pace. But at the end of the day, we're all growing. So we can overcome those things.
And
life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah,
For sure.
I think he came a long way. So that's good.
You should be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
I trusted a man so much. I almost married him.
I'm pretty impressed. You're like the youngest out of all of us, and you're very strong. Like,
Amateur.
Yeah.